Breaking news, according to our Adam Schefter, Deshaun Watson has ruptured his Achilles and will miss the remainder of the season. Watson suffered the injury late in the second quarter of yesterday's game. The Cleveland fans, who have long been frustrated with his play, cheered the injury on the field. After the game, Jameis Winston didn't hold back when speaking about reactions from the crowd.
The way I was raised, I was taught to love no matter the circumstances, especially for people who do right by you. I'm grateful that I had a chance to serve Deshaun, but I am very upset with the reaction to a man that has had the world against him for the past 4 years, and he put his body and life on the line for this city. I know the standard that hungry fans want, but the way I was raised, I will never pull on a man when he's down, but I will be the person to lift him up.
Jameis Winston clearly very upset. LeBron James also as well chiming in on X saying, Cleveland fans, you all know how much we've been through throughout the years, good and bad, bad and indifferent. With that being said, booing anyone that's down with an injury, let alone your own player, is lame. To the ones who didn't, he ended it with a salute emoji. Okay, a lot to unpack, obviously, on this one. Shannon, I'll start with you. Let's first react to Jameis Winston. Do you agree with what he had to say?
1,000%. And there's not a lot to unpack, Molly. This is Bush League. This is bull jive. It's classless. And we had a guy write in last night saying they were booing the person, not the player. Dumb. They're the same person. How can you say that, oh, it's the player? You can't differentiate between the two. I get it. You don't like some of the things that alleged Deshaun Watson has done. I get all of that. I get it. I totally do. The man is injured. Clearly, it looks like a significant injury. Anytime Woody and Stephen A., we know a guy goes down from a non-contact injury, it's normally something seriously. Patella, ACL, Achilles. We get that. That is your guy, Cleveland. Now, I noticed when he scored a touchdown, ain't nobody boo. I've seen Deshaun Watson score a touchdown in Cleveland, throw a touchdown pass, and not one person boo. I'm trying to figure out the difference. So you mean to tell me this man is laying on the ground with a serious injury? Now that's the time that you feel it's appropriate? A lot of you guys applauded when they made the move, knowing some of the things that was alleged against him. Y'all applauded it. And now you take the time when the man is down. Maybe I'm wired differently. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe I want people to see things kind of like, especially when a guy's injured. Or when people wish, oh, I'm glad something bad happened to him. I can never do that. No matter what that individual has done, I will never wish ill. I will never applaud something bad happening to someone because they have maybe done something in the past. That's me. That is, Jameis Winston is absolutely right. It's Bush League. It's classless. Yes, Cleveland, if you booed Deshaun Watson while he was on the ground, whether it's the person or the player, you're classless. That should be beneath you.
Deshaun Watson was balling. You think Cleveland would be booing? No. Make no mistake about it. As much as people are trying to attach Deshaun Watson's off-the-field history, this has everything to do with the on-field performance. Because if Deshaun Watson was balling out and that same scenario had happened, there's no way in the world that the fans will be booing Deshaun Watson. And I will say this, Shannon, you know this. We as players, we spend more time with each other than our own family. So we have an affinity for one another. It's a brotherhood. It's a bond. It's a brotherhood. No one wants to see their brother get hurt out there on the field. And so you can understand the emotion. I have emotion about it. Not only because I had the same injury, but you just never want to see a brother go out there and go down like that. To see a man getting cheered after having a significant injury, as much time and energy. Do people think that Deshaun Watson is playing this way on purpose? You don't think this man is preparing and trying to and wants to put on the best performance that he can? Like, he's not doing this on purpose. He's having a bad year. There's no question about it. But to compound it and boo this man when he's at his lowest point, I just don't vibe with that. I don't ride with that. I'm sorry.
LeBron James was absolutely right. And he has the credentials to speak about all things Cleveland, with what he has meant to that city, what he brought to that city, being born and raised just 30 minutes outside of Cleveland. There's nothing that we can say to refute what LeBron James called out. He's right on point. Jameis Winston is not wrong. He has a heightened level of sensitivity to his teammate, his contemporary, and to experience what he experienced, no doubt having gotten to know Deshaun Watson. Don't blame him one bit either. And so there's no disagreement there. But we'd be remiss in neglecting to point out what the city of Cleveland has had to deal with. Okay? Deshaun Watson had an abundance of off-the-field issues. They embraced him anyway. He got $230 million guaranteed. Nobody in football history had gotten that at the time. They embraced him anyway. And then in the aftermath of all of that, he goes out on a football field and in 19 starts, 9-10 record, 61% completions, 177 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 70 sacks, a passer rating of 80. They're looking at it and they're thinking football. Now, I remember when Philadelphia cheered when Michael Irvin was motionless on the turf in the old Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. As egregious and disgusting as it gets. And Philadelphia will never be able to live that down. We understand that. Those fans in Cleveland should never be able to live that down because you don't cheer or boo a man and all of this other stuff when he's on the turf and obviously has sustained that injury. But what I would caution Jameis Winston and everybody else to think about is the fact that they're judging harshly the football player, not the other stuff that he was accused of and had to deal with, which clearly derailed his career because when he was in Houston, he looked like a certain kind of quarterback that was rivaling Patrick Mahomes, and he's looked like anything but since he's arrived in Cleveland. Nobody can defend what they've done. It is indefensible how classless and pathetic they came across. But we also need to understand that in the case of Deshaun Watson and anybody close to him, be grateful for the fact that what they're focusing on is the football player that they haven't liked watching over the last couple of seasons, as opposed to the man whose character was brought into question because of the abundance of things that were thrown out there about him. That's what I'm saying. They're looking at the football player, and they shouldn't have done what they've done, what they did. Horrible. Absolutely true. But I'm relieved that what they're talking about is a football player that they don't like in terms of his level of production for them, instead of using that as an excuse to attack the man. I'm happy about that part.
Well, see, it's easy, but I don't know. Let me ask you a question, Stephen A. Let's just say for the sake of argument, you don't like a particular actor. Are you going to see his movies? No, because you can't differentiate between. But here's the thing. If you don't like a person and he's an actor, if you don't like that person, he might be good. You're not going to see the movie because you can't differentiate between the two. You can say, oh, that's the player, but say a player had done what is alleged, people are alleging that he did. I don't get that. I get it. They booed him when it came for the introduction, Stephen A. They booed him. Okay, fine. Chubb came behind him, they cheered. But you said Philly cheered Michael Irvin when he lay motionless. That's an opposing team player, even though he was a road team. Classless.
It's opposing team.
That was a rival team. That's your own. You're supposed to protect your own. You mean to tell me you have that kind of disdain? The guy. Granted, he's been playing bad. I'm not here to excuse his play, nor should I attempt to. But I'm saying in that moment, you couldn't find it in yourself to say, man, I sure hope he okay. Man, I hope this is something serious. Man, come on, Deshaun, get up. Bro.
Yeah, but
Get
don't
up.
confuse my
I
point.
don't want it to end like this.
Shannon, let me ask you this really quick. Stephen A.
You
Shannon,
and I
do you
would say
feel-
that. You
Real
and I, hold
quick.
on, Molly. Hold on, Molly. You and I should say. You and I should say that, and we would. That's absolutely true. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, however, is he should be, and Jameis Winston and others should be relieved that what they're lamenting is a football player who hasn't performed for them, as opposed to all the other stuff that has come with his name to castigate him. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I was going to ask Shannon, because, and I know Shannon doesn't separate it because it is the same person, but are you sure, Stephen A., that that's just what they're booing? Are you sure they're booing everything in entirety? Because we're talking about, let me just say this really quick, because I feel like a lot of people might want to boo Cleveland, right? When we were talking about 24 lawsuits, I realized 23 of 24 of them were settled. Really serious allegations, assault, sexual assault, different things of that nature. But that organization, it was just a slap in the face to all of those women to then give him the most guaranteed money ever in the NFL. And I think that plays a role in this whole picture when fans are booing a Deshaun Watson. I think it's more than just the play. Understand
why in terms of what you just said, Molly. Their mentality probably was all of this stuff you did, but you still here with a guaranteed $230 million. You better go out there and play your ass off. That's what their mentality was. And when he did not do that, which is why the boos came, I'm talking about before he got hurt, which is why the boos were there with the introduction or whatever. Nobody can defend them booing him when he was on the field and hurt. LeBron James, Jameis Winston, absolutely right. I'm just simply saying, considering the inordinate amount of things that he was accused of and has had to deal with that has clearly derailed his level of production, he should be somewhat, or the people close to him should be somewhat relieved that what we're talking about is the football player, and they didn't use that as an excuse to get into everything else. But I have no way of knowing definitively, Shannon, Damien, Molly, I have no way of definitively knowing what was in the minds and hearts of the fans in Cleveland at that particular moment. But I'm just guessing in that regard. I
think some folks want to boo the Haslams, to be honest with you.
Deshaun Watson had been playing well, and this injury had happened. Will we even see this type of reaction from the fans? I highly doubt it. I think this whole injury and the way that Deshaun Watson was playing was just a vehicle for fans to really vent their frustrations about Deshaun Watson's past. That's the way I look at it. I think we got to be honest about that.
But to Shannon's point, no matter how egregious, and I agree with you, Shannon, no matter how egregious, I think it says a lot about your character when you can still take the high road. And I do think it was weak of the fans, even though how serious the nature of those allegations were. I think both things can.
When have we ever applauded the character of the fans?
Yeah.
But and another thing, Molly.
Go ahead, Shannon.
He didn't throw an interception. He didn't fumble the ball. He didn't botch a play. So I'm trying to, at that moment, it wasn't about the play. That was not a moment in which he threw an interception that you could boo. He fumbled the ball. He did something egregious on the football field. At that moment, we're talking about moments. If you want to go back, because I remember when he ran out the tunnel the first time, how many boos were there, Stephen A.? When he got introduced and all of this was going on, swirling and everything was settled, when he ran out the tunnel, how many boos did you hear?
So, Shannon, you're saying it was more from the fans' perspective.
Woody, did you hear any boos, Woody?
No.
Shannon, so you're saying it's more of a, like, you got yours, it's a karma type thing.
I believe that's what it was about.